Hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region. Here we are at the end of the legislative session. It's been a long 120 days. We've been doing these live streams every single week, except for once. We didn't do it over Easter, but every single week we've been doing the live stream to educate people across the state about what kind of bills are being heard down at the state legislature, and also trying to empower individuals to speak out, to show up, and use your voice. Colorado, it's very easy for you to zoom into a committee hearing, show up in person, have your say, look these legislators in the eye and tell them how wrong they are or how right they are. It's really important if we're going to have liberty in our state, if we're going to have a free state. We need citizens participating, citizens getting involved, citizens having that open dialogue with their elected representatives. So appreciate everybody's hard work, everybody showing up and testifying down at the state capitol all year. Really exciting. We were able to stop some, I think, so the community itself was able to stop some really bad bills, put some pressure to slow down some others. And it could have been worse. You hate to say that, but it could have been worse. The state legislature, as bad as they are, could have been a little bit worse. But wanted to just share this Twitter image here from Representative Ryan Armagost, the Colorado House Democrats, the trolls. That was pretty hilarious. Too funny not to share. So just wanted to share that out to people. Of course, we have Michael Vance here, legislative director of the Libertarian Party. I'm also a registered Libertarian. So we're not supporting the Republicans, not supporting the Democrats, but nonetheless, when a Republican has a great meme like this, you got to share it because it's just too good not to. But Michael, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Brandon. How about yourself?
Doing very well, thank you. Really excited to be pretty much done with the legislative session. I would invite everybody to come down to Liberty on the Rocks down in Denver on Wednesday, May 15th. I will be speaking and giving my yearly annual presentation on the legislature. I think this is my fourth year doing it, if I'm not mistaken, third or fourth year, where I give a presentation. Keep it a condensed, a lot of material, of course, to cover, but keep it condensed and talk about some of the bad bills, some of the good bills, and kind of just give people that 101, a distilled version of everything we saw this year. So, Michael, you were down at the state capitol testifying yesterday. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I was able to go down there and talk about the excise tax, excuse me. It's a House Bill 1349. The goal of this bill was to rate, additionally, it was going to be 11% tax on all guns and ammo paid on the retail side of everything. So, um, they wanted to use that money to fund domestic violence victims, which I understand wanting to be able to support domestic violence victims. I think everybody can sympathize with somebody who is beaten by their significant other. I mean, that's a horrible thing to have happen to you, and that's going to leave lasting trauma. That's going to affect anybody for the rest of their life. It's going to affect you from an intimacy and a trust level. And I don't think anybody doesn't want those people to be helped. The problem is when you start using one specific group to punish them for exercising their rights, which are enumerated in the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution through the Bill of Rights, and then they want to um, fund another program with that. That's not right. That's not right. If you want to, a better way to do that would be through private funding. We could advocate for these victims. We could potentially, help with fundraising events, really support these people because they're in a really horrible situation. But to come after gun owners just because they want to be able to protect themselves is absolutely wrong. And that's what I really told them. We shouldn't be attacking gun owners. Additionally, for wanting to be able to protect themselves and protect others. Additionally, the gun is a great equalizer for people who are domestic violence victims, and it's something that is a very important tool for a lot of people, and they're able to protect themselves from those same abusers that harmed them in the past. Additionally, the third thing I also brought up was inflation. It's more and more expensive these days to live in Colorado, and this 9% tax or this 11% tax is going to make it even harder for Coloradans to protect themselves. That bill, I should say, while I did mention 11%, it did get brought down in the last committee, in the House committee, to a 9% tax. And then Kyle Mullica was able to negotiate it down to a 6.5% tax.
Right.
But we're still disappointed that he actually negotiated down to a 6.5% tax when he could have just blocked the thing initially. So we're extremely disappointed with him. We were grateful to him for holding back and pushing back against this thing, but unfortunately, uh, it was not enough, and he went ahead and let this thing pass anyway. Um, but it was a really interesting experience because I went down there. I was able to testify, and I actually used Brandon's Free State Colorado / testify link that he has on his own on his website. And he's got a link when you read his bill, um, when you read his article that he created, where you can just go and testify. In fact, he's pulling it up right now. You can just scroll through. There's a little link you can click on, and it'll give you 3 different options. You can either testify in person, you can testify remotely via Zoom, which many people did as well, or you can submit a written testimony. The best way to do it, though, is not submit a written testimony. Go in person, let them see you. You can look them right in the eye and let them know, hey, I do not like what you're doing, or hey, this is a wonderful thing. This is really going to help out this bill that you're proposing is going to really help Coloradans out. So there's no better way to do it than in person, but I get it if you can't. If you live on the Western Slope, you live like for example, our chair lives out on the eastern slope in northeastern Colorado. It's not easy to get all the way down to the Capitol, so they do have a great option of being able to let you testify via Zoom, and they give you 2 or 3 minutes depending on the amount of bills to testify, and then then the legislators have about either 10 to 15 minutes to cross-examine people if they choose to. They didn't ask anybody in my panel except for Ina Escalante a question. So very, very interesting experience. I think everybody should get down there and tell their senators, tell their elected representatives what they think about these bills that are getting passed through the Colorado legislature.
Awesome. Well, really appreciate you showing up down there, Michael, and testifying, speaking out. It's a really important thing for people to do to stop some of these bad bills. At least have your voice heard. At least, don't let these bills pass without anybody saying how wrong they are. That's a huge piece of it. And actually, we had another bill killed this week that we have a special guest we're going to talk about. But before that, Jody, did you want to add something to about? Yeah, go ahead.
What Mike was saying, Michael, as many bills as I was down there last week with, the one thing that you were just bringing up about 1349, being that it has to go to appropriations now. And then because we only have that 2-day window, when you really think about it, because Wednesday, they're not going to do anything, but they'd have to do their final, second, third readings, right? It's really gonna be tight if this one even gets in. And it's really important, even on 1292 that we watched, it was supposed to be heard yesterday. And then it's probably going to pop up. We really need to stay on top of the, where it says to testify, like you were saying on Brandon's site, the link that they have. We got to check that tonight. We got to check it in the morning because they're going to pop these things at the last minute. And that's what we were discussing down at the Capitol this week.
You never know when they might get, sometimes you can get lucky and they could gavel it through and not necessarily kill it, but kill a day on the bill. That's always a win for us as well, especially because, like you said, there's only 2 days left to really do anything. We need to make sure that we're paying attention. We're staying on top of it. I also found out about another potential bill on, I believe it was, let me verify this real quick, but there's another real nasty amendment that Julie Gonzalez is trying to throw out there. Senate Bill 107. It's a bill to prevent violent offenders from carrying guns. Well, what she wants to propose, and right now it's not dead, but it's kind of dead just because of timing.
Right.
She wants to make it so that way if you do carry in a sensitive space as defined by Senate Bill 131, which already passed, you permanently lose your gun rights. So we have to stay on top of that bill as well and make sure that amendment does not pass through.
What's that number?
Senate Bill 107.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think that's a great example too. Here we have 2 Republicans who sponsored this bill, right?
Right.
Trying to take away people's gun rights for committing drug crimes, which is absolutely ridiculous when you think that cannabis was just legalized recently in Colorado. But according to Senator Gardner and Representative Evans, they would want those people to lose their right to keep and bear arms. I mean, it's a really bad bill that Republicans should not be supporting. And then here you go, Michael, great point that, then the Democrats can weaponize that bill by amending it, making it even worse, and now going after a whole new host of people that the Republicans did not intend originally. So just an example of how bad these bills can get. And these good intention, quote unquote, good intentions of some of these Republican legislators actually end up causing more problems. So
Oh,
perfect.
and also you bring up drugs. Psychedelics are in the same exact boat as that. So it's an attack on a lot of different groups of people.
Perfect. Well, speaking of psychedelics, we do have a special guest. We did talk last week uh, with Jimmy here, who just joined us, talking about the Senate Bill 158. And would you like to go ahead and we'll give you a couple minutes here or a few minutes to talk about this bill and talk about how this bill was stopped in committee last week? You're muted there.
All right. Now, all right. Well, we did kill 158. Am I showing up on video?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, first off, I want to thank all you guys for putting on these wonderful calls. This has been, incredibly helpful through the legislative session and was one of the reasons we were able to identify this bill that really kind of piqued our interest early. But really, there's been a lot of news, including CBS National picking up the news. But in my personal opinion, it was really pressure from the grassroots that came together over this past week and really killed this bill. So going back, Sunday evening after the call last week, I did send a official letter to the bill sponsors requesting that any amendments to the bill be posted by Tuesday morning. We had testified originally on the Senate side and then was also present when the Senate then later passed it through committee, which did not have any testimony. And both of those times, the discussion was around all of these amendments that had not been made public. So I had requested that we could, for the Wednesday hearing, we at least have the amendments by Tuesday morning so we could look those over. There was nothing posted Tuesday, and so we actually did a citizen advocacy class at Plant Magic Cafe led by my partner Ashley. And that got picked up by Fox News Local. So we started to get a little more pressure from the press. Then we met a bunch of advocates gathered on Tuesday morning down at Plant Magic Cafe. And the plan was to march down to the Capitol, make some signs, march down to the Capitol and make some noise. And that's exactly what we did. Had a march of, probably about 20, 25 people. And it was perfect weather for the march. And so when we got down there was some press, which was helpful. And also being a nice day, we were pretty loud. So a lot of those windows were open and they certainly knew we had arrived. The committee hearing was scheduled upon adjournment, so that meant it could have been anywhere from 10 o'clock in the morning till midnight, essentially. And so we started the wait. And it was about 4 or 5 hours that we waited around, and eventually the House adjourned and went into committee. For those of us who spent some time at the Capitol, it was pretty clear what was going to happen in the beginning. Only Representative Lukens was there. Representative Frizzle was not. She started off by saying that the bill was going to be pulled and that it just needed more time and had some other reasons to go around with that. Now, what happened after that was very unusual. The committee had not voted to lay over the bill till the 10th, which eventually would kill the bill. But Lukens that identified that many families in support of the bill had been waiting all day and that they would then be allowed to testify. And so what we got over the next 90 minutes was that anyone who was there to testify in favor of the bill was allowed to testify, and anyone who had anything to offer against the bill anyone cut on Zoom was just cut off. The Zoom feed was cut off to anyone who was going to testify remotely. And the people in the room were not actually acknowledged as being against the bill. And so what you had was 90 minutes of testimony for the bill, essentially calling it a great bill. And there were a lot of sad stories associated with this, but there were a lot of half-truths and missing information. So we sat through that, and it was not the most pleasant thing, and certainly it was not a fair hearing. But the committee did decide that they were going to lay it over to the 10th, which essentially kills the bill. Representative Lukens made it clear that she was going to try to bring the bill back, even though we had a lot of testimony of why the bill just doesn't work. And that was that. Like I said, then a couple days later, CBS National picked up the story. That essentially said that the governor was behind the killing of the bill, and that some lobbyists had really done some questionable things in order to kill the bill for the lobbyists. I don't have the link on me, but like I said, it was on CBS News, and I will send that to put in the live feed once I finish with this. But the big story is that 37 advocates were ready to prepare or ready to testify against this bill. And some stories, about why technically, even if you assign a email or a phone number to a login, these companies still can't tell that who that person is actually, who has ownership of that. And so, the big story here is that 37 people showed up to testify against this bill. And certainly this call was part of it, and they were denied that ability by Colorado legislators. And that's, unfair. And really, many of these people had never been in the Capitol before. And they were super excited during the march. We had American flags. We were laughing. People were honking because they saw the news story before. People were excited. They were really going to be able to participate in this process and have their voices heard. And, they were just ignored. And it got so bad that one of the committee members at the end recognized all the people who had stayed all day and throughout the testimony as proof that how good of a bill it was. But it was actually just a bunch of people there who did not understand what was happening and had their voices censored by Colorado legislators because they didn't like us speaking out against a bipartisan bill. So that the great news is that we killed the bill. The bad news is there are a lot of citizens who tried to engage in the legislative process that now, understandably feel pretty disenfranchised. Part of the CBS story went into that Governor Polis did not like the bill. Certainly his image as a libertarian has suffered with his involvement against HH and his involvement in the special session. So can't discount the possibility that maybe the governor always planned to veto this. There was also another amendment added on April 16th that has me a little bit worried that this may return from the dead and we may see it on the ballot in November. Other than that,
Wow.
the only other thing is currently one of the things we identified early was that this put the power into the AG's office as far as how this would be implemented. Another bill that we've been tracking is SB 84, which now has been stripped down, but is going through these last couple days. The original bill kind of allowed the AG's office to start creating a plan around preventing misinformation and disinformation. Originally, this would have covered essentially everything on social media and, really started to look like a Ministry of Truth 1984 type bill. Now it has been stripped down, but is going through, and it is just specifically focused at the school system. So instead of the misinformation, disinformation duties being implemented across the board. Right now, it is just going to be in the school system, which is still concerning, but definitely is not as bad. But the combination of the metadata from 158 and having everyone's ID combined with a ability to prevent mis and disinformation was something very scary and really influenced us to rally the troops around 158. But again, it's 37 people had their voice denied by the Colorado legislator this week, and that is pretty sad. So that's all I got about the wrap up for 158. I'm glad it's dead.
Well, really appreciate it, Jimmy. Appreciate you guys showing up, rallying the troops, and getting people down there. That pressure does make a difference. Oftentimes, people can get discouraged, but hey, even if they didn't get a chance to testify, them being there, getting that press coverage, that media coverage, I know Westward talked about it as well. Getting people active and engaged definitely can make a difference, and that does get to the legislators some of the time, most of the time, hopefully, and definitely got to the governor, I think, as well. So really appreciate all your hard work, everything you did. And yeah, let's keep it going for next year. I think that there's a lot of challenges facing the psychedelic industry or community as we go forward with this new system after 122 last year or last cycle. And we'll see where it all goes. But awesome. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you giving us that update and appreciate getting everybody down there at the Capitol. So thank you.
And
Thank you again.
once again, thank you guys for the call. Certainly, we heard some people who had seen it and they had reached out. And so really, this was a grassroots effort across the board and killed what was a very successful bill until about a week and a half ago.
Right. It flew under the radar. And then, it's awesome. It's a great success story and really exciting. And let's see what we can do to continue to grow this Liberty community and get people more engaged so we can make sure stuff like that never even has a chance of passing. Right.
Awesome. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and jump in here to our regularly scheduled program. We're going to talk about some of the bills from last week, of course. So we are in the final week of the state legislature. Thankfully, luckily here in Colorado, we only have the 120-day session. It's not a year-round legislative body, thankfully. So we're almost to the end of it. May 8th is when it's supposed to end, but I think it's going to the 9th, if I'm not mistaken, or I could be mistaken on that because of the snow days and because of some of the other delays. I think the 9th might actually be the new date. I could be totally wrong though, but that's what I've heard from somebody. So I'll have to keep an eye on that, and I apologize for not knowing that. All right. So some of the bills we covered last week, the bills we talked about, some of the bills of interest. Let's see how they ended up. So this is the committee hearings that we talked about last week. So substance use disorders recovery, that was a bad bill, did pass. Senate Bill 48, Senate Bill 223, the licensing for fertility clinics did pass. The Equal Justice Fund Authority, or slush fund, as I'd like to say, House Bill 1286 did pass. The earned income tax credit data sharing, so giving everybody who's getting that using that earned income tax credit, giving their data to a whole host of other government agencies to try and get them to take on these other programs, that have passed. House Bill 1372, the regulating law enforcement use of prone restraint, that did pass. I know a lot of the Republicans were grumbling on that one. Senate Bill 216, standards for decisions regarding library resources. So kind of trying to create the statewide standard for what can and can't be in public libraries. That did pass. Senate Bill 225, the trauma-informed school safety drills. I like that bill. Thought it was a good idea to allow parents to let their kids opt out of these school shooting drills that could be very traumatic and very, bad for the psyche of the kids. Unfortunately, that bill was killed. Tuesday of last week, Senate Bill 195, the Protect Vulnerable Road Users bill, did pass, unfortunately. Senate Bill 32, methods to increase use of transit, right? Because they can't get enough people taking these mass transit schemes that they're pouring all this money into, did pass. House Bill 1447, that's the big landmark transit reform bill, was amended quite a bit, but that did end up passing. House Bill 1356, the sale of unauthorized electronic smoking devices, passed. That one did get amended down, we talked about last week. Senate Bill 112, the construction defect action procedures, was killed, unfortunately. House Bill 1300, the home sale wildlife mitigation requirements, that bill did get killed, thankfully. That was a bill that was going to make it more expensive, a total Democrat bill, going to make it more expensive for people to have mountain properties, buy and sell mountain properties to have to go along with these wildfire mitigation requirements, making it more costly for people. So thankfully that bill was stopped. 1308, the effective implementation of affordable housing programs passed. Unfortunately, that program continues unabated. The government's plan for high density housing along these transit corridors. Wednesday of last week was the massage therapy education program hours did pass, Senate Bill 201. And Michael, you had a little bit of an insight on that one. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I was listening right before I hopped on here. I was listening to the Colorado channel on YouTube because they're currently going through floor work over on the legislative side, or on the not the house, on the House side in the legislature. And Puglisi was up speaking of this bill, and she actually told us the real reason why this bill was in the Senate, and it's because, or that was introduced by the Senate and went to the House. It's because the massage therapist came to the legislature and said, "Hey, we actually need to have more hours required of us for training. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to get any access to Pell Grants." So I thought it was very wild that government said, "Hey, you don't have enough training. Therefore, you need to spend more of your own money for that that therapists don't even need in order for us to give you more money." So it seemed kind of wild to me that the federal government, who doesn't know anything about what it's like to be a massage therapist, what the best practices for massage therapists are telling massage therapists how much training they actually need. So, and that's going to end up just being a waste of taxpayer dollars because it's something they don't need. But here we are.
Totally ridiculous. Really appreciate you providing some insight. We had some good jokes about them increasing the massage therapy hours. It's going to solve this major problem, but apparently, yeah, they just want more money, more Pell Grants, more tax money potentially to push this whole massage therapy licensing scheme. Totally ridiculous. So appreciate that update there.
No problem. It just blew my mind.
Senate Bill 149 also passed last week. That was making some changes to workers' compensation for state employees in Colorado. Senate Bill 41, the privacy protections for children's online data. Now that did pass. That was another concerning bill. Really interested to see how that bill got amended if it did. So people keep an eye on that one if you're interested. Senate Bill 158, we just heard from social media protect juveniles disclosure reports. Really bad bill. Thankfully that was killed. Check out last week's video to find out just why it was so bad, why we're celebrating so much this week that it was killed. Additionally here, Senate Bill 162, best practices to prevent discrimination in schools. So rest assured, no more discrimination in public schools now that bill passed. House Bill 1262, the maternal health midwives bill, did pass, unfortunately. That whole regulatory scheme is moving in the wrong direction there. Thursday of last week, the certified community behavioral health clinics did pass as well. Now, of course, there were some other bills discussed in committee hearings because there was some impromptu stuff, some things done outside of the normal schedule that we had last Sunday. But of course, we're kind of just sticking to what we talked about. Now, moving on to this week, there's not much, right? So if the legislature is ending this week, it's all going to be House floor, Senate floor work. But there's one really bad bill that people still have an opportunity to speak out on, and that's this Monday. That's the alcohol beverage retail license. So let's go ahead and jump into that. That's going to be heard tomorrow. So this is going to really convert certain liquor licensed drugstore licenses to fermented malt beverage and wine retailer licenses, updating the requirements for wholesalers, removing the cap on the amount of alcohol beverages a retailer can purchase from retail liquor stores, and prohibiting a fermented malt beverage and wine retailer from displaying alcohol beverages in certain locations on the retailer sales floor, expanding certain licensees' ability to deliver alcohol to certain other licensees, prohibiting a fermented malt beverage and wine retailer from selling alcohol beverages with greater than 17% alcohol by volume, and making an appropriation. So one of the parts of this bill that was really a slap in the face to voters, Colorado voters in 2022 approved having wine wine sold in grocery stores, and so if that so happens to be over 17%, which sometimes it can be, then this bill would say grocery stores and gas stations, all this can't have that anymore. So it's a really bad bill that really is designed to protect these special interest liquor stores. And I get it. I used to work in a liquor store. There's some really great small liquor stores across Colorado, and try and frequent those instead of the supermarkets. That's wonderful. But at the same time, it's not the legislator's job to go in there and try and protect specific industries, especially when the voters have spoken. So this bill is being heard here on Monday. House Bill 1373. There's still an opportunity for people to show up, speak out, testify over Zoom, submit written testimony. Of course, you can do all of those things. This bill's been through a lot, made it through the House, and got assigned in the Senate. So Senate Finance upon adjournment tomorrow, which could be a long time. There's a lot going on, of course, in the Senate as a whole. So it could be later in the day, could be in the evening. We'll see, but it's upon adjournment, so kind of tough to plan your day around. But Senate Committee Room 357, this bill is going to be heard. Potentially other bills too, because we have a lot of bills that are still going to be heard on the House and Senate floor, and those might end up in committees on the other chambers. So really bad bill. If people can show up and speak out, please do. This is one of the bad bills that people still have an opportunity to show up at a committee hearing for. Yeah, go ahead, Jody. I think you're muted there.
Sorry, HB 24-1292 could be heard first thing in the morning. That's the one with the prohibit the certain weapons in the mass shootings. That's
a great point.
It's a big gun bill, and it was supposed to be heard Saturday. Never got on the schedule. Coleman said he was going to still try to pursue it. So that's one to really watch out if it pops up in the morning, and if they could squeeze it in there, they're trying.
Correct. So that bill, 1292, is the assault weapons ban, the big gun ban, banning 80% of the most common firearms in Colorado. That was assigned to the Senate State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee. As of right now, it's not on the agenda. It's not on the calendar. Looking at the agenda, there's just this implement fraudulent filings group recommendations bill. But nonetheless, it could be brought in. It could be added. So expect funny business. Be prepared to show up and speak out. It'd be great if anybody can, any gun rights activists, show up at the state capitol tomorrow and just be there just in case, and kind of have that presence. And really, every single person in Colorado, if you support your gun rights, you should be reaching out to your state senator right now, your state representative, and making sure that they're not going to push or not vote for any further gun control bills this year, anti-gun bills like 1292. So please make some noise. It's not over yet, of course. So very important point, Jody. Go ahead, Michael.
One thing I want to say real quick is you brought up a really good point about just showing up, because you never know when they're going to be when they could bring this bill up. And if you are there in that session and they just spur of the moment bring it up, you're there, as you said. But the other interesting thing is you're there for the other bills too. Speak out. If you're already there, speak out on these other bills that are still about the that they're about to introduce in committee, because they will ask you if you are there, if you would like to show up, even if you did not sign up. So you still have the option if you did not sign up and you're there in the room. So please go down there and be there to protect your rights and your gun rights, and be there to protect your liberty for any other bills that are going to shoot through in the last couple of days of special session or of this session.
Yeah, great point. Definitely show up. There could be some last minute negotiations, some backroom deals. We've seen that kind of thing before, stuff crammed into this last week. If you remember last year, Senate Bill 303 that created Proposition HH, they introduced it. Really, if the legislator wants, if the leadership wants in the House or the Senate, they can introduce a bill the same day, pass it through committee the same day, pass it through one of the chambers the same day, and then get it into the other chamber the next day. So really, they only need 2 days to get any bills passed into law. So there's still time. Something could be added at the very last minute, something that they've been trying to, maybe they forgot, or something that fell through the cracks, or a bill that died that they're going to rework and bring back. There's a real chance that something like that could happen. Go ahead.
Oh, you just reminded me. Isn't there some sort of issue with property tax bill that wasn't the legislature supposed to introduce another property tax bill within by the end of the session?
Yes, definitely. There's another big property tax bill. There's another bill it's supposed to be a tax cut, really changing how taxpayer bill of rights or TABOR refunds are issued. So there's some other big bills that got introduced here right at the very end. So great point. So don't be surprised if you see something else come through. So that's really what we got on the calendar in committee hearings. But nonetheless, it's really important that you know who your legislators are. You know who represents you in the state Senate, in the state House. You can find that out if you go to leg.colorado.gov. And when you're on this website, that's here right here, there's a button at the top here that says Find My Legislator. So if you click on that, and I'll go ahead and highlight it here, just make it easier for people to see. But you can definitely
There was a bill, Natalie Menton called me up and says, Jody, can you get down there? Can you get down there? And it was basically the which one was this? 1296. And that's about the core requests. And they were trying to charge all these nominal fees. Then they were trying to extend the time to give them more time to respond to you. And you know how Natalie's on that stuff. So, but we got it
definitely.
killed. Praise the Lord. We did get it killed.
Yes, very happy. Well, I got a slide for that one here coming up here.
Good.
So people find your legislator, find out who represents you. You can type your address in on the legislative website here, know who represents you. Please reach out to them. We're going to talk about some bills that are still going to be heard in the House, in the Senate. And so you should still be reaching out to your state senators to ask them to vote against these bills because there's still time. It's still going to happen. So one bill of interest, one of the bills we've been tracking here towards the end of the last couple of weeks is House Bill 1280, the Welcome Reception and Integration Grant Program. So this is for these newcomer migrants that are coming here and basically giving a grant program. So spending some taxpayer money to kind of subsidize them. And as somebody mentioned in the YouTube comment earlier, if you subsidize it, you're going to get more of it, right? So really good point there. So for people interested, you can reach out to your state senator and talk to them about this bill, whether you support or oppose it. This is House Bill 1280 being heard on the Senate floor tomorrow, Monday, May 6th at 10 a.m. when they convene. It'll be on the daily schedule. So if this is a bill of interest, reach out to your state senator and tell them how you think. Another bill that did get passed was the immigrant identification document issuance. So this is making it easier for driver's licenses for people not lawfully present in the United States. So that's your illegal immigrants, right? Making it easier for them to get driver's licenses. If you're opposed to that sort of thing, then this is a bill you can reach out to your state senator. It did just get passed in the House, I believe today, if I'm not mistaken, or yesterday. But they amended it, so the Senate has to concur or agree with those amendments or make some changes of their own before they can actually pass it into law because the bill was changed by the House. So another opportunity in the Senate for this bill to be stopped, or if you support this, reach out to your state senator and tell them so. But another important bill. So people, there's still time for advocacy, for activism. There's still time, and there's still an important task at hand for people in the Liberty community in Colorado to be reaching out to your state senator and state representative and tell them how you think. Any thoughts on those two migrant bills there, Michael?
I'm kind of curious. Is this the one right here, that immigrant identification document issuance? Is that the one that got amended in House and then got rejected by the Senate?
Let's take a look at the history here. So from what I can see, it got amended. The House committee, so it got passed through the Senate, right? So the Senate passed it back on the 24th, got to the House, assigned to the Transportation, Housing, and Local Government Committee, which was heard on the 3rd, so just 2 days ago, in the House Transportation, Housing, and Local Government Committee. They amended it to the Appropriations Committee. The Appropriations Committee passed it today. They referred that unamended, so they didn't make any changes there, to the House Committee of the Whole. So now the whole House as a whole still has to consider it, which is going to be oh, wow. Tuesday, this just got added since I looked earlier. Tuesday, May 7th at 10 a.m. So, wow, they're really pushing this one to the very end here. So it would have to pass the House on the 7th and then go back to the Senate. So it could still get passed, I believe, on the 8th if the 9th is that last day. So there's a chance it could go through still, but it doesn't look to me that this might be that bill necessarily that.
There's so many bills. It's so easy to confuse what's what, because I know there was a bill that was like that. But I mean, in regards to these two bills, I'm not really a big fan of either one of these bills. I mean, you shouldn't be able to get you should, if you're not here legally and you did not go through the proper channels, it's disrespectful to the people who have waited their turn. Some of these people have waited years and years and years. You want to make an argument that, yeah, maybe we should make it a little easier for people to get here. They shouldn't have to wait years and years and years just to come to America. If you can prove who you are and you're a citizen who does not want to, and you're a citizen of your country who doesn't really break the laws, anything like that. I don't see a problem with you coming over here. Welcome. A lot of times people with that mindset are coming here because they see the opportunities of America and they make this country a better place. But that's not everybody who comes here. And we also meddle around in the Middle East in a lot of these places, and we've created a lot of enemies all over the world. We need to be able to protect ourselves. Unfortunately, if I go back and change those foreign policy decisions that we've made decades ago, I absolutely would have, but we don't have that ability. So that's just the reality of the situation. We need to be able to protect ourselves from foreign actors who absolutely wish us harm and want to see us destroyed as well. So, I mean, it's a very, very nuanced issue, but we can't be allowing people who should not necessarily, who are over here in an illegal manner, the ability to, drive cars, get benefits, et cetera, et cetera. So I have a problem with these bills. I definitely think we should be voting no, because I mean, I know a lot of the reasons these bills are being introduced is because they have a more underhanded mindset than what you're seeing right here on the screen. And sometimes it's more or less about the revolution and not the issue itself. So, for a lot of these people, particularly like you're talking Lorena Garcia, Elizabeth Epps, Tim Hernandez, who's his prime sponsor on the other bill we're talking about. So we've got to be very, very concerned with who we're dealing with here, and we got to understand the reasons behind some of these bills, not necessarily what they're telling us with their words.
Yeah, great point. Really good points all around. Yeah, it's interesting. So, people reach out to your state senator, tell them what you think about Senate Bill 182. If you don't think that illegal immigrants should be getting driver's licenses easily, then tell them to vote against 182. And if you don't think we should be spending tax money in this grant program to make it easier for illegal immigrants to come to Colorado, then tell them to vote against 1280, 100%. So those are two bills that people can still, even though you can't testify in a committee hearing, you can still reach out to your elected senator, the person who's supposed to be representing your community, use your voice and tell them what you think.
Hey, one
Another bill.
second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Commenter, old Ben says, does anybody remember what happened when we kept the Jews out in the late 1930s? I do remember. It was absolutely disgusting. But we're not saying keep everybody out. We're saying if we know that you're somebody who's in that position, we're also not dealing with a Holocaust here, like what we're dealing with. We're getting people coming in from China illegally. We're getting people coming in from a lot of these places in the Middle East. I mean, through places in South America. They're coming in from South America and then walking through the gates. There's TikTok videos that's all over the place. So it's not necessarily, we're not talking apples to apples. It's a different, we're in a different circumstance here. So we just need to make sure that we are protecting American citizens, but we also need to be going after the root issues here. But that's not necessarily something we could do in the Colorado legislature, but we also should not be rewarding people and giving people money as we're giving individuals, like people come across the border and then we hand them $2,000. That's not right. We should not be giving the government, which takes our money through taxes, which is taken by saying, at the end of the day, the government is ruled through force. If I don't give the government money, I get locked in a cage, and they will use lethal force if they have to, right? So, I mean, that's just taxation. So they're taking our money and then handing it to people who did not go through the proper channels. So it's just not respectful to those individuals. If we could verify these people are, and yeah, one last time, if we can verify that these individuals are actually good individuals. They could pass basic background check, stuff like that. They're not terrorists. That's the main thing I want to make sure. We're not bringing terrorists in who are going to destroy our country. Yeah, come on over. But we can't. Yeah, we can't let the commies win on something like this. So I'm done.
Yep. Never let the commies win. That's for sure. That's why we're doing these calls, to stop the communists.
It's
So
all of us against the communists, and we have actual communists in our legislature like Epps, Hernandez, Mabry, etc.
all right, so let's take a look at some of the other bills that are still going through the legislature. Some of the bills we've been watching their session. Of course, 1292 is the worst gun bill we've ever seen, really, here in Colorado, banning most guns. That committee hearing is not scheduled, but keep an eye out. It could potentially end up on the calendar for tomorrow. So people, reach out to your state senator, reach out to everybody that you can at the state capitol, and tell them to stop this bill. All right, Senate Bill 75. This is the Transportation Network Company Transparency. This is the regulatory bill for Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, etc. So really bad bill, not as bad as the other one, but this is still going through. Going to be heard on the House floor on Monday, May 6th. So please reach out and tell your state rep to oppose Senate Bill 75 for sure. We don't need the government meddling in with these transportation network companies and making it harder for them to operate. Really, one of the great innovations we've seen with internet, cell phones, and just great logistics technology is the ability for these companies like Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, etc., to provide a great service for the community here in Colorado. So we don't want the legislators, these politicians, meddling with these businesses and making it more expensive or more difficult for them. So Senate Bill 75, bad bill. Looking at Senate Bill 65, the mobile electronic devices, we don't like this bill because it creates new penalties for using your cell phone while driving. I don't know about you, but it seems like pretty much everybody out there at one point or another, you're looking at your cell phone, maybe to check your map app, maybe to look at something or answer a phone call. Just because you're looking at your phone doesn't mean you should be getting a $75 fine and license suspension points and escalating from there. So this bill did pass the House on today on the 5th. It did get amended, so it now has to go back to the Senate to get concurrence from the Senate. So reach out to your state senator. Senate Bill 65, bad bill. So a lot of opportunity here for people to reach out to their state senators and tell them to oppose some of these bad bills here in this home stretch. House Bill 1270 still has to go through on the Senate floor. It's scheduled to be on there May 6th. So again, people make a list, take some screenshots, but watch this video. It's on YouTube. But get a list of these bills, reach out to your state senator or any of the senators that are in these competitive districts and tell them to oppose these bills. House Bill 1270, the firearm liability insurance requirement. Most likely, I'm sure it's an unconstitutional bill, but a bad bill, making it extremely difficult for people to legally own guns in Colorado. Going to be heard on the Senate floor Monday, May 6th on the calendar there. So really bad bill to stop. House Bill 1022, a good bill, a great bill from Representative Stephanie Luck, one of our Liberty leaders down there at the state capitol. This bill did get referred to the Appropriations Committee yesterday. So it'll hopefully go through appropriations and end up on the Senate as a whole, and the Senate can pass it, and then this bill can become law, but it creates more transparency, giving legislators the opportunity to get their bills online before the session starts. So activists and people like us and people voting public can have more information about what bills are going to be heard in the committee here in the legislature in the session that year. So good bill from Representative Luck. We don't want any surprises. Go ahead, Michael.
A quick question is, who is the Senate sponsor on this one? Because right now we're only seeing Stephanie Luck. Okay, so we got Kevin Van Winkle. That's awesome. And I did not know that we had Hamrick on there as well. This is a fantastic bill. It's going to provide a lot of transparency and we can understand what they're doing. But this is extremely disappointing that and wow, I did not realize that this thing had a bipartisan support in the House. So that's fantastic news. But it's just disappointing. I'm hoping we can get this thing run next year. It's looking like this thing's running out of time, but still, we should reach out and let people know. We should let our representatives, our legislatures know that represent us. to support something like this, because it'd be fantastic if everybody knew what they were planning to do beforehand, before legislative session starts.
Definitely. Allowing each member of the legislature to post multiple bill titles, drafts, or combinations of titles drafts on the online forum, establishing a timeline for them to publish up to 3 versions of the bill title or bill draft. So definitely more transparency, more information for the public. That's a good thing. So Hamrick's one of the bad ones, but glad to see that she saw that this is a good bill, and good on Senator Van Winkle, who's term limited. Unfortunately, definitely going to be a void left because he's been a relatively good Liberty vote over his tenure there. But hopefully he'll get elected down to the county commission, I believe, in Douglas, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what he's running for. But good bill there, House Bill 1022. Tell your state senators vote for this bill. They'll hopefully have that opportunity here in the last few days of the session. All right, looking at House Bill 1051, the regulatory scheme for towing carriers, so tow companies. I know some of the tow companies out there are bad actors. I've heard some stories recently about people's cars getting stolen and held at ransom, basically, and towed. And there's some bad news out there for the towing companies. A lot of mob connections, I'm sure, but nonetheless, House Bill 1051 is a bad bill. It's going to be heard on the Senate floor tomorrow, May 6th. So some big bills going through at the very last minute here. Go ahead, Michael.
All right, so 1353 was a very, very late vote in committee. And right before that, this bill came up, and it didn't really have much pushback. There was a Liberty activist who I know of who actually was in favor of this just because of how much they hate Wyatt's towing. And listening to him online was pretty funny, just absolutely rail against Wyatt's towing. He wouldn't say them specifically, but he was just talking about his experience. He'd go, they've probably got about 6,000 one-star reviews online. He's like, I'm not even joking about that. Just because of how much Wyatt's towing has harmed a lot of people. And that's why this bill got created. But it's really sad that this bill is going to do a lot of damage to the towing industry. And it's going to be really bad because Wyatt's Towing can handle it. Wyatt's Towing is kind of too big to fail. They get propped up by a lot of governments, etc. But this is going to be really damaging for a lot of the small mom and pop tow truck companies. And that's the issue with this thing, because it's going to make it even harder for a lot of small mom and pop tow truck companies to survive. And that's my real beef with this thing. They're too big to fail. And in fact, some of the people that voted for this bill in committee said, hey, I would be in support of a bill or I'd be against a bill like this, but there's such little pushback that I'm going to vote in favor of it.
Wow.
So,
wow. Yeah, bad bill. And I'm really glad you brought up the point. Some of these big companies, they love the regulation because it prevents their competitors, their entrepreneurial small mom and pop shops from coming in and competing with these big boys who can pay their lawyers and pay their lobbyists and really make sure that they're going to get into these schemes and pay the licensing. And then the people who are just trying to start out, they have all these hurdles to create their business. So bad bill for sure. Yeah, why it's a no good from everything I've heard. So interesting there. One of the comments on YouTube says, how can you drive rideshare without using your phone? Talking about Senate Bill 65. That's a great point. That's a great point. I guess another unintended consequence, right? Going after these rideshare companies.
Absolutely. And a bill like this, remember what it's like when you've got the big guys on top and they start they start advocating for the regulation because it cuts out the little guy and they're the only ones that are able to remain. So, why it's towing, why it's is so big that within this state that's basically what's happening now with crap like this.
Yeah, good point. All right, moving over. With Bill, we did talk about this alcohol beverage retail licensees. Really bad bill. Shame on Perry Will. Great mustache and all, but bad bill from a free market liberty perspective to try and protect these companies out there. They don't need special government protection if they can't survive in the free market. Unfortunately that's how it goes. They have to play by the same rules as everybody else. So this is being heard Monday in the Finance Committee upon adjournment, Senate Committee Room 357. So bad bill. Talk to the Finance Committee people in the Senate and talk to your state senator and tell them to oppose 1373. And we'll keep an eye on who supports this bill, who votes for it, and try and hold them accountable come November. So looking at some of the bills that passed now, so those are some of the bills that are still hanging out there, still going through the process, bills that can still be killed potentially. So please reach out. People, don't give up, don't let up. Make your voice heard and really have an impact. Do your best to have an impact. That's what we can do at this point. But unfortunately, since we met last, the Senate Bill 131, the prohibiting carrying firearms in sensitive spaces, did pass. It passed on the 30th. Polis has not yet signed it. Now, he does. Polis, our governor, you would think he'd have to sign the bill for it to become law. He doesn't have to sign it. After 10 days, it's going to become law on its own. So Polis can still veto this and prevent this bill from becoming law. So at this point, after the bill can, you should be lobbying the governor. If you oppose Senate Bill 131, send an email to the governor, call his office, let him know you oppose this. You know, he's supposed to be a liberty-minded individual. We've seen that not to be true with some of his other bills he's passed and signed into law, but nonetheless push back on Senate Bill 131 and really tell the Governor Polis not to sign it, tell him actually to veto it. Moving on here, another one, the concealed carry permits and training. That bill is about to become law if it hasn't already. House Bill 1174 making it more difficult for individuals to get their concealed carry permit. So very bad bill. Polis could have vetoed it, but I think actually, as time ran out on that one, we might be getting really close here. Or I believe it's probably past the 10 days, so we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Hey, real quick, has Polis vetoed a single bill this legislative session?
That's a great question. I'm not sure. That's a great question. We'll have to keep an eye on it. You know, it's still plenty of time for these bills to go to his desk. So hopefully he does exercise that veto pen on some of these bad ones, but not that I'm aware of. A bill that passed, this is the other drive or delivery network company protection driver network delivery company bill, the DoorDash, Uber, what all of it. This bill ended up passing. This was the worst of the two, actually, because look at the sponsors. Vigil, Marbre, Hendrickson, three of the most authoritarian legislators down at the state capitol, push this bill through, really creating this new loopholes and regulatory scheme for this delivery network companies out there. So making it much more difficult and expensive for them to operate in Colorado. Of course, that's going to mean they're going to have to hire less people, maybe move out of the state potentially if they can't conform to these new regulations. So really bad bill. This would be a great one to see Polis veto as well. When Jared Polis did sign into law, this from the legislative website, a signature on the actual bill, the cause required for eviction of a residential tenant, making it harder for individuals to get evicted, making it harder for property owners, property management companies, landlords to evict people. Really bad bill. Another example of Jared Polis violating the property rights of the people of Colorado, at least signing off on the violation of their property rights, agreeing to put into law this really bad bill. Egregious infringement on property rights. Now, Polis did sign 1039. This was one of the most controversial bills of the year, the non-legal name changes, allowing students to use their own name at schools, basically forcing teachers and school staff to use these made-up names that the kids want, apparently in an effort to conform to their gender identity. So unfortunately, that bill did get passed and signed by Jared Polis just this last week. So unfortunate news there, but not surprising, knowing Jared Polis's, LGBTQ plus advocacy, of course, not too surprising that he signed this bill. Another one is Senate Bill 3, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation's authority to investigate firearms crimes, giving $1.7 million to the CBI to have them go after gun shops, making it more difficult to go after maybe somebody who's got a magazine over 15 rounds, something like that, really sicking the state government on them, unfortunately. So we'll see if Polis ends up signing this one. Now here's a great news. This is one Jody brought up earlier. Really excited. This is some great news. Just a few days ago on May 1st, this bill was killed. House Bill 1296, modifications to the Colorado Open Records Act. So would have made it much more difficult for individuals to get Colorado Open Record Act's requests through. Made it more expensive, made it more difficult, allowed less transparency for the government, and giving the government more power to delay and push back on individuals who want that open access to government records. So, I think Matt Soper, Republican Representative Matt Soper, needs to apologize to the people of Colorado. He needs to apologize to the Liberty community, especially for trying to go after our Colorado Open Records Act, CORA. It's our state level version of the FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. It's a great resource. It's so important for the people of Colorado to know what our government is doing. And people like Matt Soper siding with the government against the people. Check out my video if you go to freestatecolorado.com. I just did a video this last week with Corey Gaines, who's a teacher, but also an author, writes a lot of articles, and we talked about this bill pretty in depth. So definitely check that out at freestatecolorado.com if you want more information on this bill. Go ahead, Michael.
Two questions. One, is this what was known as the vexatious requester bill?
Yes,
Yes.
I believe so. Yes. Yes, it was. That had already been removed in a
Yep.
previous committee hearing. They amended the bill to take that out. But thanks, Jody, for confirming that. But they still killed the bill nonetheless. So that had already been taken out to try and make the bill a little bit more passable. But thankfully, it still got stopped overall.
And my other question is, wasn't Julia McCuskey on this one at one point in time?
There was another bill, I think, that she was behind, the one that did pass. But let me see if she was on this bill.
Mm-mm.
Let's go ahead and look at the
She
bill
was not on
text.
that. I thought there was one where she was trying to limit limit Cora.
Yeah, there was another bill that I talked about with Corey Gaines that did end up passing for the General Assembly. It was a bill that McCluskey and Fenberg both co-sponsored to exempt the Colorado, or clarify, in their words, clarify what is it considered an open meeting under Colorado
That's
sunshine
it.
laws for the General Assembly. So saying that, only specific types of business can be recorded or reported for the sunshine law and quarter reporting. And they wanted to get that rushed through back. They got it pushed back in March. So while the session was still going, before the session was over, they really wanted to cover their behinds and try and cover up what they're doing and protect their privacy at the expense of the people of Colorado while the session was still going on this year, unfortunately.
And
So
that's
very,
what,
very bad bill. That did pass, yeah.
yeah, that was unfortunate. I remember Epps, we were shocked that Epps actually came out with a good bill trying to allow more transparency within the legislature.
Yeah, and I think Epps voted against that bill because she's the one of the people who sued our state legislator leadership over their secretive meetings and their attempts to avoid Colorado Open Records Act.
One real quick thing on that bill, it was interesting, that bill was on Polis's desk for less than 2 hours before he signed it when it hit there, so just a little note.
Yeah. Jared Polis, on the same side of the legislator to try and hold information back from the people, make it harder for the public to know what our government is doing, unfortunately. But that is the sign of the times, unfortunately, in our state legislature. So great news. We can celebrate, though, that House Bill 1296 was killed. And if you're a Republican at any event that Matt Soper shows up, please give him a hard time and tell him to apologize for sponsoring 1296. And of course, Kathy Kipp and Janice Marshman, no surprise there that they're on the side of big government over the people. Some of the bills that died this year, thankfully, Senate Bill 33, the property tax for Airbnbs, was killed. I'm sure we'll see something like that come back in the future. That is not an issue that is going away. They want to try and go after all these mountain properties and second homes and places that are individuals own that are used as Airbnbs and get them to pay more property taxes. So do not be shocked. We're going to see something like that again next year, but I'm sure they're going to work all during the off season here to try and get a more palatable version through or prepared for next year. But good news that bill died. Senate Bill 22 died, third year in a row to trying to regulate flavored tobacco products, trying to outlaw flavored tobacco in counties across Colorado. So very happy to see that bill die. That I'm sure that something like that's going to come back. Tobacco is still the big boogeyman in the state of Colorado is supposed to be, supporting marijuana, cannabis, and psychedelics. The tobacco is still the boogeyman for a lot of these people, unfortunately. But good news, people. And this is one of the things I think that people should take away from the session is that some of these bad bills died, right? Not every single bad bill is going to get through. Just because there's this Democratic supermajority who support a lot of these authoritarian policies, they're not all going to become law. There's dissension. There's a lot of different individuals with a lot of different thoughts and backgrounds in the legislature, even though they're all Democrats. and they're not necessarily all going to push for these types of bills. So, it takes some optimism, takes some hope for the future that there's a potential to stop bad bills like this. It's not just because a bill's introduced doesn't mean it's going to become law. There's still opportunity for individuals to have a voice, to speak out, and it really starts with talking and creating that dialogue with your elected senator, your elected representative. Of course, you can't neglect to mention House Bill 1163, Regina English's ridiculous bill to create a licensing scheme, a state registration system where you have to pay $8.50 per animal every year. So your goldfish, you got to pay $8 and have them registered, and you create a designated caregiver and all this ridiculousness. She was pretty embarrassed, I think, when this bill got some press and really bad press, and 12-0 vote, they killed the bill. So, some of these bills out there, they're gonna die. But it takes people getting involved, people speaking out. The Overdose Prevention Center is 1028, making it through the House this year, kind of the furthest it's been, as far as I know, getting to the Senate, and the Senate killing that bill. So very interesting to see that these bills, in the House is a little bit more extreme, but the Senate's a little bit more moderate, and they're not necessarily going to push through bills like this Overdose Prevention Center, the safe injection site bill. A good bill that Governor Polis, at least in theory, supported was the reduction of the state income tax. Right now, Colorado state income tax is flat at 4.4%. This would have reduced it to 4%. Would have been a great bill, stimulating the economy, letting people keep more money on their paychecks. Would have been a really good bill. The governor signaled early in the year that he supported a bill like this, supported reducing the income tax, because he knows that taxation causes serious problems for people and reduces their ability to contribute to the economy and makes them work longer hours because they got to work up to pay that tax bill. So unfortunately, 1065 did die, but there's some good opportunity on the ballot to reduce taxes that way. And that looks like the avenue people are going to have to take until the majorities change. Really excited that Senate Bill 36 died this year. That was the Vulnerable Road User Protection Enterprise. This is the bill that would have created a new fee, aka a tax on every large vehicle in the state of Colorado on your registration, a new fee that everybody would have to pay that would go towards this vulnerable road user. So you're talking more bike lanes, you're more ridiculousness that very few people use, but the expense of everybody, of course. So glad to see this one died, but expect this kind of thing to come back. Go ahead, Michael.
I have a name for these people. It's motorist aggressing persons, or MAPS, however you want to say it. So, yeah, these people are just absolutely nuts. They think that, we live in Colorado. There's no reason that we should try to punish people for driving vehicles, particularly when we need them for the weather events that we have in this state, because we still need to live our lives. So it's absolutely wild. They want to turn everything into a 15-minute city. Happy to see this one die, but we also know what the way the legislature's mindset is. We need to take we need to take that into consideration come November, and we need to really start getting aggressive and going on the offensive now, and use this legislature as a stepping stone for that. So let's get rid of a lot of these people, but also understand that a lot of this mindset's not going to fully go away, and we need to be prepared to push back come 2025 legislative session.
Definitely well said. Senate Bill 159 was the bill that would have basically outlawed oil and gas in Colorado by 2032. So you got to think about this. We can see how extreme they can get. That's another, to Michael's point. They can, if they had a majority, a majority of just the most extreme socialist, communist type legislators, all Reina Garcia's, God forbid, down there, a bill like this would have passed, right? A bill like this, where oil and gas would be outlawed in Colorado, and it would be absolutely insane, putting tens of thousands of people out of work and making life much more expensive and more difficult for people across the state. But thankfully, bills like this don't make it all the time. So another opportunity that if just a little bit of changes happen, just a little bit more, just keep working where you can, win where you can, then some of this stuff can end up getting stopped.
One other thing that we need to think about is there's a narrative building. You've got the craziness of what's going on with the DSA members. You've got bills like this. You've got bills like the previous bill. You've got the transit-oriented bill that that tried to rear its ugly head here this year. If something like this would have passed, we would have probably seen a reoccurrence of what we saw a few years ago when we saw the possibility of succession within Colorado and have a North Colorado. At what point is that not going to happen again? I mean, these people should be concerned that they are overstepping their reach. If you ever pay attention to John Caldera's Devil's Advocate, he had I believe it was a year and a half ago, he had Ted Trimpa on, and that's one of the things Ted talked about as one of the members of the roundtable who pushed Colorado far blue. Colorado is starting to go too far to the left, so they need to understand that they're taking this thing too far, and they need to bring it back to the center. At least he can see that, because there's going to be a real bad split that happens incredibly soon. So, and we're seeing it
Definitely.
now. So they need to be extremely careful over the next few months what they try to push on us and what they try to campaign on.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll see if the Republic, I'm no Republican, but we'll see if the Republicans kind of are able to take advantage of this opportunity. Not guaranteed that that's going to happen, but we'll see.
100%.
Another bill that died this year, Bill, we've been talking about since day one, since back in January when we started these videos. Senate Bill 43, the raw milk bill. I think there's really good opportunity that raw milk legislation a good raw milk bill could occur next year. I think, especially with the change of the legislatures. I think there's a really good opportunity to get a better raw milk bill out there. So hopefully we'll see somebody work on that, or maybe a new person elected who can help get raw milk decriminalized here in Colorado. And Forest Mommy on the YouTube channel says Wolverines. Great point. They passed this Wolverine bill, but we all know that if you ever seen the movie Red Dawn, Colorado was the battleground where the communists were defeated, and or at least a big battle fought against the communists just by high schoolers. Patrick Swayze and Charlie Sheen, pushing back against these communists coming through, taking place in Colorado in that movie. And so Wolverines here has a totally different meaning. But of course, we have now Wolverines being pushed through to be introduced in Colorado again too. But that's what we got. That's what we got. Just a couple other resources here. Of course, share that Free State Colorado /testify. Just want to go back. So kind of looking forward, we're going to see some ratings come through. One of the great organizations Colorado has is Liberty Scorecard Colorado. They put out a scorecard every year, so that'll be coming out in the next couple months. They're going to rank and grade every single legislator down at the state capitol and say how they did this year. So it's a great tool for individuals to use going into November to say, hey, and actually, not just November, but all the time, you should know who your state senator and who your state rep is. And you can go on libertyscorecard.co.us and look them up and say, how pro-liberty are they? Are they in the middle? Are they one of these liberty leaders like Luck, DeGraff, and Bonhams, Van Winkle, Baisley, Wilson? Or are they, on the other end of the spectrum? And it's good to know. It's a really good resource. Definitely encourage people to contribute to Liberty Scorecard Colorado, but pay attention to that website over the next few months because they're going to be releasing their ratings. They're going to give out an award, usually to the best rep and senator who stand up for our liberty. So check them out, Liberty Scorecard Colorado. Another great resource out there is the Colorado Parent Advocacy Network. Follow them on Twitter at CPAN Colorado. The text is black. I didn't change that, unfortunately, so it's kind of dark, but check that group out, Fighting for Parental Rights. Another group out there. You know what? We'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and fix this text real quick. We might as well. We got a couple more minutes here. But Liberty Scorecard. So Liberty Scorecard is put on by the Colorado Liberty Republicans. They produce their annual scorecard measuring how the state lawmakers vote according to constitutional principles, individual rights, free markets, and limited government. You can donate at their website. They don't have a membership, but you can definitely donate and support that great group. But I mean, as a libertarian, as somebody who believes in freedom, individual rights, free markets, and limited government, hey, if that's how the legislators all voted in favor of those three things, we'd be a much better place, right?
Absolutely.
Looking at the CPAN, let me go ahead and fix that text. So the Colorado Parent Advocacy Network, coloradoparents.org, restoring the parents' voice in education. You can sign up for their email list on their website, follow them on Twitter, but another good group out there. So, even though these calls are ending, the legislators going to be over this week. These are some great groups to kind of stay in touch with, to get involved with going forward. Looking at the Colorado Union of Taxpayers, another great organization out there. They do rank as well. Each legislator, they rank all the bills. They put out this great yearly newsletter that's going to have a scorecard basically also of all the legislators, some of the big bills. It's great resource. Definitely encourage people to spend $25. I mean, how could you won't even remember you spent $25 to become a member of Colorado Union of Taxpayers. Definitely a great group to support. Let's grow this liberty community and support some of these great organizations out there. But they advocate for the rights of families and individuals to keep their hard-earned dollars. So CUT does great work out there. They email their weekly rankings to every single legislator down there, and they really let them know that they're watching. And it's a great resource. When I was a legislative aide down at the Capitol many years ago, we'd look every single bill that came through on the floor that day or in committee. We would look up what CUT and said about them, and we'd send a little group text to our pro-liberty legislators and let them know, hey, this bill's a good pro-liberty bill. Here's why. Here's what CUT said about it, because it's hard to keep track. There's 700 bills this year. How can people keep track of it? Well, we have great groups like CUT and Liberty Scorecard Colorado out there pushing, keeping an eye on it. So this is their rankings. You can go check it out online on their website. There's the link right there to the PDF, but this is from last year. They had no taxpayer guardians or no Senate or House champions. They didn't think anybody was that great, but there are some people who are okay. Baisley, Van Winkle, Luck, DeGraff, and Bottoms, usually at the top of the list there, just like we saw in Liberty Scorecard. But it's a great resource. You can download their PDF from last year and look at their ratings and rankings. Definitely check them out. Force Mommy says they had a great event back in January. Yes, they did. It was awesome. Hopefully they'll have some more events. Kim Munson, the great radio show host, is the president of Colorado Union of Taxpayers, so definitely an organization we're supporting. The Tabor Foundation and the Tabor Committee, really good organizations. Some of the people who helped get the Taxpayers Bill of Rights passed back in 1992 are still around, and they have this great group of the Tabor Foundation, taborfoundation.org. You can donate, you can sign up to volunteer, but they do lawsuits against the state if they think that some of these bills get through and they're violating the Taxpayers Bill of Rights. So definitely check that out. Every single taxpayer in Colorado has rights under our state constitution. Article 10, Section 20. It's something that's kept Colorado from becoming California, has definitely slowed down the state government's ability to turn us into a big authoritarian state, and prevents new taxes from being formed without the voters approving it. So if you want to protect Tabor, if you see the value in the Taxpayers Bill of Rights, then definitely support the Tabor Foundation at thetaborfoundation.org. So these are some great groups. Definitely want to leave you with some of these organizations that you can continue to support, continue to get involved with. Of course, our good friends at Rocky Mountain Gun Owners. We had a great privilege of having Ian Escalante join our call a few times and talk about the bills. I'm hoping to touch base with him again. But they're a great group. There's a picture of them from last year's assault weapons ban in 2023 of them showing up. It's only $30 a year to become a member, but they're suing the state government pretty often these days, and they're showing up, testifying, they're putting in the work. I mean, they're really the only game in town of lobbyists who are actively showing up at the state capitol every day and really trying to support and fight for our Second Amendment rights here in Colorado. So encourage everybody to become a member of Rocky Mountain Gun Owners for sure.
Ian bought me pizza yesterday, so yeah, that was pretty great. So
awesome.
We came out and it was a couple of us, and we sat there with him for a little while. He's like, you guys are coming by and you guys are gonna testify, I'll buy you pizza. So I was really appreciative of that. So
that's awesome. That is awesome. So definitely check it out. We've seen some crazy bills come through. We've seen some really bad stuff. We've seen some of it get stopped. I appreciate all the hard work everybody's done. Everybody's showing up at the state capitol. Michael, really appreciate your efforts as the legislative director of the Libertarian Party of Colorado, of rallying the troops and getting people to show up and speaking out and sending out those emails and testifying yourself. So really appreciate all your efforts this year.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's
awesome.
It's hard work to track all these bills and get prepared every week, but it's really important work. And I think we're the only ones doing something like this in Colorado. So it's exciting to see. It's been really good to do something that's unique to help prepare people to get um, ready for the bills that are coming down the gullet, and looking forward to helping out next year.
Yeah, definitely 100%. We're not done. I really encourage people, if you go to meetup.org, search for Denver Liberty on the Rocks. So Wednesday, May 15th, down at the Independence Institute, I'm going to be doing my yearly recap of the legislative session. So it's a free event at the Independence Institute. You can find all the details at meetup.com. Liberty on the Rocks Denver is what you want to look for. I'm also hosting the Liberty on the Rocks Northern Colorado. For anybody up in this neck of the woods, please let me know. But come check us out. We have complimentary beer, free drinks. Some people bring food. It's a totally free event. Show up, make some friends. Let's have a great turnout and really talk about what happened this year at the legislature. We got a lot of material. I got to figure out how to condense it down uh, to a 20 or a minute talk or an hour long talk. I could probably talk for 2 days on what happened this year, but we'll have a fun presentation and have a lot of fun. So definitely encourage people to come down. Let's celebrate or celebrate the end of the session at the very least. Talk about our wins, lick our wounds over the bad stuff that happened. So I hope everybody on Wednesday, May 15th comes down to the Independence Institute for Liberty on the Rocks Denver for me to speak my speaking event down there talking about the legislative update from this year.
Sounds good.
So that's awesome. Appreciate it. So yeah, appreciate you too, Jody, showing up at the state capitol throughout the year and testifying in these committees. Thank you for that.
Well, I thank you for all this. Really does keep up. You're right, Michael. It's a lot of work, isn't it, with a lot of bills? And between you and Brandon, you really helped me an awful lot to stay on top of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
And really appreciate everybody else out there, everybody watching, everybody who showed up at the Capitol this year, everybody who emailed and called their legislator, their elected representative. It's we can make a huge impact, but the first step is understanding what's going on, getting involved, knowing what we can do about it, and informing others, and then doing something, right? So appreciate everybody here. I hope, Michael, we get together again soon. Maybe not next Sunday. We might need a break after all these 17 videos we did, almost all 2 hours long plus. So we've done a lot of videos. You can find them all on the Free State Colorado YouTube channel. But yeah, we might want to take a break for a week or maybe not. I don't know. But I really want to I'm hoping we can do a video, like another live stream, and get a whole bunch of people to join us. Like, maybe we get Rocky Mountain gun owners. Maybe we get Colorado Union of Taxpayers. Maybe we get Liberty Scorecard. Maybe we get some of the legislators. Maybe we get just a whole host of people coming through, kind of recapping the session. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I think
So maybe
a wrap up would be really great with all of them. You're right.
so
Yeah,
I'll work.
fantastic.
Yeah. I'll work on planning that. Maybe we can plan a couple-hour live stream either this Sunday or the next, and then have different segments and have different people join throughout the night, and we can all have some drinks and have some laughs and kind of talk about it all together. That'd be a blast.
How do you get
Absolutely.
notified on that, Brandon? Would I just keep watching your Free State or Michael's?
Yeah, follow on Twitter, Free State Colorado on Twitter, LPCO on Twitter, Michael K. Vance on Twitter as
Okay.
well. That's one of the best avenues. If you're on Telegram, go to the Free State Colorado Telegram channel. I have the Liberty Activists, Colorado Liberty Activist Telegram channel as well. I always post in there. Free State Colorado on Facebook. Yeah, just join any of those, and I'll try and get the word out as best as possible if we do another live stream and do a little recap of the session. But thank you, everybody. Thank you to Forest Mommy as well. She's in the comments a lot, always asking people to like, share, and showing up down at the Capitol, and really couldn't get as much exposure without her and her 40,000 Twitter followers. So thank you so much, Forest Mommy, for all your help there as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Well, I don't know. It's kind of sad. It's going to be a void on Sunday nights not to have these calls, but we'll get back at it again next year, and I'm sure we can come up with some other stuff to talk about during the next few months. Michael, what do you think?
I think that would be great. One of the things that I do want to do as we transition out of legislative session is I really want to help people organize on the local level. I know, for example, Forest Mommy, she's been doing a ton. Her Valerie Leo of CPAN, going to, I mean, for example, Brandon helped Forest Mommy with her campaign last year for city council. We need to get more organized on the local level, on the county level, because there's a lot of crazy stuff that's going on that level, not just the state level. So if you guys want to reach out to me, Michael K. Vance on Twitter, michael.vance@lpcolorado.org. That's my email address. Please let me know of the crazy stuff that's going on in your areas. I'm happy to shed as much light as on that as possible. If you know of people that want to get together, I'm happy to help you guys get together and start creating your own little coalitions in your local areas, because that's the way we're really going to beat these people. Is we got to beat them on the state level, on the city level, on the county level, the municipal level, the um uh yeah, the school level. We got to get people on these school boards. There's a lot of different areas where we really need to start working. So please reach out to me and let me know, and we can get people organized, and we can really transform this, turn the state around.
Definitely 100% agree with that. I'm happy to help as well. Please reach out. Uh, Forrest Money says local government live streams talking about what's going on in local governments. That could be fun, especially if there's some event. I know the Arvada City Council is meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m., but keep updated if there's anything out there that needs some exposure. Hopefully, Free State Colorado can help provide some exposure to any of those things. So reach out on Twitter, Facebook, Telegram, or on freestatecolorado.com. There's a contact button, and you can contact me there as well. So like Forrest Romney says, every little bit helps. We can get involved, speak out, and have a voice. And there's so much opportunity here. The Liberty community in Colorado, I think, is better organized, better networked than ever before. We probably have more liberty-minded individuals active in politics on a grassroots level than any time I can remember. So I think there's sky's the limit, a lot of opportunity. But let's get organized, let's keep going, and let's not give up. I'm not giving up. I'm going to fight and not leaving Colorado, fighting and staying here. So we are the tip of the spear. If we can stop these communists here in Colorado, we can save the rest of the country. And like somebody was saying in here, MH was just saying we're showing California the way. At some point you can't run. You got to fight. Some point, people always talk about leaving to go to Florida, Wyoming, Idaho, wherever. But at some point, you're going to have to fight. They're doing the same thing there. There's this guy on Twitter who always was messaging me about how bad Colorado is, how happy he lost. And then he keeps posting about how in South Dakota, they're doing the exact same thing. The exact same bills were coming up. And, they're making progress. They're making headway. These people are so organized and so well funded. They're not going to stop. So you can run as much as you want, but you're going to have to keep fighting somewhere. So fight where you're strongest, fight where you have your community, fight where you have a network, fight where you have great people like everybody out here in Colorado. And yeah, don't give up, people. There's some real good things coming in the future, I say, and we can do it.
Absolutely. The best is yet to come.
Awesome. Well, with that note, appreciate everybody. We'll see you next time, whenever that is. And ciao, so long, auf Wiedersehen, farewell, so long, and thanks for all the